Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of her warship and watched the stars through the cracked viewing window. Her hands gripped the metal rail as she looked at the damage reports on her screen. The numbers were bad, very bad. Of the 47 ships that had fought to protect Kepler Station 3 days ago, only 7 were still working. Even those 7 ships were barely holding together. The alien ships had come without warning. The Vorthak Dominion had sent 300 warships, each one bigger and stronger than anything humans had ever built. Their ships looked like giant insects made of metal and something that seemed alive. When human weapons hit them, the holes would close up by themselves. When they fired back, their weapons cut through human shields like they were made of paper. Kate had been fighting in space for 20 years, but she had never seen anything like this. The aliens moved together like they shared one mind. They never made mistakes. They never got confused. They just came forward and destroyed everything in their path. Captain Alex Grant walked up to her. His uniform was torn and dirty from working on his damaged ship. The Ranger was his destroyer, and it was leaking green coolant all over the deck. Half of his crew was hurt, but they kept working. "Admiral, we got the jump drive working again," Alex said, "but it only works at 30% power. We can maybe make one more jump, but after that we will be stuck wherever we land." Kate nodded. She had expected this. All of their ships were in the same condition. The cruiser Horizon was flying on half its engines. The escort carrier Liberty had lost most of its fighter planes. The frigate Storm was missing its main gun. Every ship had problems that would normally send them back to base for months of repairs. But there was no base to go back to. Kepler Station was gone. The shipyard at Proxima was destroyed last week. The aliens were moving through human space like a fire burning through dry grass. They took every colony, killed every person, and moved on to the next target. Kate looked at the star map on her screen. The red dots showed where the alien fleet was now. The blue dots showed human colonies. There were not many blue dots left, but one of them was special. New Haven Colony had 12 million people living on it. Families, children, old people who had never hurt anyone. If the aliens reached New Haven, all those people would die. "How long until the main fleet from Earth gets here?" Alex asked. 3 weeks, Kate said. "Maybe 4 if they run into trouble." Alex was quiet for a moment. They both knew what this meant. The alien fleet would reach New Haven in 2 days. The 7 damaged human ships were all that stood between 12 million innocent people and certain death. Commander Lisa Bell came onto the bridge. She was the captain of the cruiser Horizon, and she looked as tired as Kate felt. Lisa had been awake for 3 days straight trying to keep her ship working. "We just got a message from the colony," Lisa said. "They want to know if they should start evacuation ships." Kate thought about this. New Haven had maybe 100 civilian ships that could carry people. But 12 million people would need thousands of ships. Even if they started right now, most people would still be on the planet when the aliens arrived. "Tell them to start loading the children and old people," Kate said. "But tell them not to give up hope. We are going to make a stand." Lisa looked surprised. "Admiral, with respect, we have 7 broken ships. They have 300 perfect ones. This is not a fight we can win." Kate turned to look at both of her captains. These were good people who had followed her into battle many times. They deserved to know the truth. "You are right," she said. "We cannot win this fight. But we can make it cost them something. We can buy time for those evacuation ships. We can show them that humans do not give up, even when everything looks hopeless." She walked over to the communication station. "Open a channel to all ships," she said. The face of every captain appeared on her screen. Captain Pete Johnson from the frigate Storm looked angry. Captain Helen Torres from the carrier Liberty looked scared but determined. The other captains all had the same expression. They knew what was coming. "I am going to be honest with all of you," Kate said. "Our situation is very bad. We have 7 ships that are barely working. The enemy has hundreds of ships that are better than ours in every way. If we fight them, we will probably all die." She paused and looked at each face on the screen. "But 12 million people are counting on us. If we run away now, those people will have no one to protect them. So I am asking each of you to vote. Do we retreat and save ourselves, or do we stay and fight?" Captain Grant was the first to speak. "The Ranger votes to fight. The Horizon votes to fight," said Commander Bell. One by one, every captain voted the same way. Even though they knew it meant death, every single person chose to stay and protect the colony. Kate felt proud of her people. This was what made humans special. When any smart person would run away, humans would stand and fight for what was right. Then we make our stand at New Haven, she said. Chief Engineer Rodriguez, how much ammunition do we have left? Danny Rodriguez appeared on another screen. He was covered in oil and looked very tired. Not much, Admiral. Maybe enough for one good fight, but after that we will be throwing rocks. Then we better make that one fight count, Kate said. All ships set course for New Haven. We have 2 days to prepare for the biggest fight of our lives. As the 7 damaged ships turned toward the colony, Kate looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, the alien fleet was coming. They were stronger, faster, and had better weapons. They probably thought this would be an easy victory, but they had never fought humans before. They did not know that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who has nothing left to lose. They were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Kate smiled for the first time in days. Let them come. She and her people would be ready. The 7 human ships arrived at New Haven system with smoke trailing from their engines and holes in their hulls. Admiral Kate Morrison looked through her cracked window at the planet below. It was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents that reminded her of Earth. 12 million people lived down there, and most of them had no idea what was coming. Captain Alex Grant came to her bridge with a tablet full of bad news. Admiral, we lost another engine on the way here. The Ranger is now running on backup power only. Chief Rodriguez says we might have 6 hours of fighting time before everything shuts down. Kate nodded and looked at the asteroid field that surrounded New Haven. Thousands of big rocks floated in space around the planet. The colonists used them for mining, pulling out metals and rare materials to sell to other worlds. Now those same rocks might be the only thing that could help them. Tell all ships to hide in the asteroid field, she said. We need to use every rock, every piece of cover we can find. Commander Lisa Bell's voice came over the radio from the cruiser Horizon. Admiral, my engineering team found something interesting. We can take the mining charges from the colony's industrial station and attach them to our torpedoes. It will not make them much stronger, but it might help. Kate felt a small spark of hope. Do it. Tell all ships to gather any civilian equipment that might be useful. Mining tools, construction explosives, anything that goes boom. On the frigate Storm, Captain Pete Johnson was already working with his crew to weld mining charges onto torpedo casings. The charges were meant to blast apart asteroids, not alien ships, but they were better than nothing. His weapons officer, Lauren Price, was helping to modify the warheads even though she had never done anything like this before. Lieutenant Colonel Sam Baker contacted them from the planet's surface. He was in charge of the Colonial Militia, a group of farmers and miners who had some old weapons but not much training. Admiral Morrison, we are setting up defense guns around the major cities. They are not military grade, but they might slow down any landing ships. Kate appreciated his effort, but she knew the real battle would happen in space. If the human fleet failed, no ground defenses would matter. The aliens would just burn the planet from orbit. 2 days passed while the humans prepared. They moved their damaged ships deep into the asteroid field, hiding behind the biggest rocks they could find. Engineers worked around the clock to fix what they could, and jury-rig weapons for mining equipment. Everyone knew they were probably going to die, but nobody gave up. Then the alien fleet arrived. Kate watched on her sensors as hundreds of ships appeared at the edge of the system. The Vorthak vessels looked like giant bugs made of metal and living tissue. They were twice as big as the largest human ship, and there were so many of them that they blocked out the stars. Count them, Kate ordered. Her sensor officer, Ben Clark, worked at his station for several minutes before answering. 412 ships, Admiral. They added more since Kepler Station. Kate felt her heart sink. The aliens had brought an even bigger fleet than before. 400 ships against 7 broken ones. The math was simple and terrible. A message came through on the alien communication channel. The voice sounded wrong, like someone trying to speak with a mouth full of broken glass. Human vessels. This is Hive Commander Zethkar of the Vorthak Dominion. You will surrender immediately. Those who comply will receive swift death. Those who resist will suffer greatly before they die. Kate looked around her bridge at her crew. They were scared, but they were still at their stations. Communications Officer Ryan Moore looked at her and nodded. He was ready to send her reply. Kate picked up the microphone and spoke clearly. This is Admiral Kate Morrison of the Human Colonial Defense Fleet. You want our world? Come and take it. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All ships prepare for battle. Remember, We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for every human child sleeping safely on that planet below." The alien fleet began to move forward. They came in perfect formation, like a swarm of insects following invisible signals. Their ships moved together without any confusion or hesitation. Kate had seen this before at Kepler Station. The aliens shared thoughts somehow, which made them incredibly good at working together. "They are entering the asteroid field," reported Ben Clark. "All weapons are charged and ready to fire." Kate waited until the alien ships were deep among the rocks before giving the order. "All ships, open fire." The 7 human ships unleashed everything they had. Torpedoes with mining charges attached flew toward the alien vessels. Laser beams cut through space. The improvised weapons hit several alien ships and caused small explosions. But the alien ships barely seemed to notice. Their living hulls absorbed the damage and began to heal themselves. The holes closed up like wounds getting better. Within minutes, it was like the human attack had never happened. The aliens fired back and their weapons were devastating. Energy beams that looked like purple lightning tore through the human ship's shields. Captain Grant's destroyer Ranger lost its main gun in the first exchange. Commander Bell's cruiser Horizon suffered a hull breach that sucked 30 crew members into space. Kate realized they needed a new plan, and fast. That's when Chief Navigator Ben Clark noticed something strange. "Admiral, look at this," he said, pointing to his screen. "The alien ships are avoiding certain asteroids. They keep flying around some of the bigger rocks instead of going straight through." Kate studied the pattern. He was right. The aliens seemed to have trouble seeing certain types of asteroids, the ones with high metal content that interfered with sensors. "That's it," she said. "We are going to use the asteroids as weapons. All ships lock tractor beams onto the biggest rocks you can find. We are going to throw them at the aliens." It was a crazy plan. Using rocks as weapons was something humans did thousands of years ago. But sometimes the oldest ideas were the best ones. Captain Torres on the carrier Liberty was the first to try it. She locked her ship's tractor beam onto a massive asteroid and hurled it at an alien cruiser. The rock hit the ship's side and caused serious damage that even the living hull could not heal quickly. The other human ships began doing the same thing. Soon the space around New Haven was filled with flying rocks launched by desperate humans. The aliens had never seen anything like this primitive but effective tactic. The battle around New Haven became more intense as the alien ships began to adapt to the rock-throwing tactics. Admiral Kate Morrison watched as the Vorthak vessels started using their own weapons to blast apart the asteroids before they could hit their hulls. The aliens were learning, and that was bad news for the humans. Captain Helen Torres stood on the bridge of her escort carrier Liberty and looked at her few remaining fighter planes. Most of her pilots were dead, and the fighters that were left had bullet holes and damaged engines. But she had an idea that might help turn the battle around. "All remaining pilots report to the hangar bay," she announced over the ship's communication system. "We are going to try something new." Pilot Jake Williams was one of only 12 pilots still alive on the Liberty. His fighter had a cracked cockpit window and one engine that made strange noises, but it could still fly. He met with the other pilots in the hangar bay where Captain Torres was waiting. "Listen carefully," Torres said. "The aliens have better ships and better weapons than us, but they also have something we can use against them. Those sensor arrays on the front of their ships are what help them see and coordinate with each other. If we can blind them, they might not work together as well." Jake raised his hand. "Captain, our weapons are not strong enough to damage those arrays." "We tried that at Kepler Station and it did not work." Torres nodded. "You are right. Our weapons are not strong enough. But our ships are." She paused and looked at each pilot. "I am asking for volunteers to ram their fighters directly into the alien sensor arrays. It will destroy your ship and probably kill you, but it might save everyone else." The hangar bay was quiet for a long moment. Jake looked at the other pilots and saw the same expression on every face. They were scared, but they were also angry. The aliens had killed their friends and were trying to kill innocent people on the planet below. "I will do it," Jake said. "My fighter is barely working anyway. Might as well use it for something important." One by one, all 12 pilots volunteered. Torres felt proud and sad at the same time. These young people were willing to die to protect others. It was the most human thing she had ever seen. Meanwhile, on the damaged cruiser Horizon, Chief Engineer Martinez was working on a different kind of desperate plan. He had noticed that when human ships exploded, they created electromagnetic pulses that seemed to confuse the alien ships for a few seconds. If he could make a controlled explosion instead of a random one, maybe he could disrupt the aliens' ability to talk to each other. "Commander Bell," he called over the radio to his captain, "I think I can overload our reactor to create a big electromagnetic pulse. It will not destroy the ship, but it will knock out most of our systems for a while." Lisa Bell was fighting to keep her ship together as alien weapons hit their hull. "Will it hurt the aliens?" "I think so," Martinez said. "Their ships seem to use some kind of biological computers. Electromagnetic pulses really mess up biological systems." "Do it," Bell ordered. "We are not going to last much longer anyway." At the same time, Communications Officer Ryan Moore on Admiral Morrison's flagship made an interesting discovery. He had been trying to coordinate the human ships using normal radio channels, but the alien weapons kept disrupting their communications. In frustration, he had started broadcasting on emergency frequencies, including some that were usually reserved for civilian ships. That's when he noticed something strange. Every time he sent out a message on certain frequencies, the alien ships seemed to hesitate for a moment. Their perfect formations would wobble slightly before getting back in line. "Admiral Morrison," he called out, "I think our radio chatter is interfering with the alien hive mind somehow. When I broadcast on frequency 779.4, their coordination gets messed up for a few seconds." Kate looked at her communications officer with new hope. "Can you boost the signal?" "I can try," Ryan said. "If I route power from the weapon systems, I might be able to create enough interference to really confuse them." Kate made a quick decision. "Do it. All ships switch to emergency power for weapons and route everything else to communications. We are going to try to jam their hive mind." The first part of the new plan started when Jake Williams and his fellow pilots launched their damaged fighters toward the alien fleet. Jake's engine was making terrible noises and his life support system was failing, but he kept flying straight toward the largest alien ship he could see. The aliens tried to shoot down the fighters, but the small ships were hard to hit among all the floating asteroids. Jake dodged between rocks and pieces of destroyed ships, getting closer and closer to his target. He could see the alien sensor array clearly now, a cluster of organic-looking dishes that pulsed with blue light. "This is for everyone at Kepler Station," Jake said into his radio, and then he crashed his fighter directly into the sensor array. The explosion was not very big, but it was enough. The alien ship's sensors went dark and suddenly it was flying blind. The other pilots followed Jake's example, ramming their fighters into sensor arrays on different alien ships. Within minutes, a dozen alien vessels were flying without their main sensors. At almost the same time, Chief Engineer Martinez overloaded the Horizon's reactor. The electromagnetic pulse that resulted was massive, spreading out in all directions like a wave of invisible lightning. Every electronic system within 100 kilometers was affected, including the biological computers inside the alien ships. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The alien fleet, which had been moving in perfect coordination, suddenly became confused. Ships that shared thoughts through their hive mind were cut off from each other. Some alien vessels stopped moving completely. Others began firing at random targets, including their own allies. Communications Officer Moore boosted his radio transmission at the same time, flooding the emergency frequencies with chaotic human chatter. The combination of electromagnetic, interference and random radio noise created a storm of confusion that the alien hive mind could not handle. "Admiral," Morrison watched in amazement as the alien formation began to fall apart. Ships that had moved like dancers now bumped into each other. The perfect attack became a confused mess as alien captains tried to figure out what was happening. "All ships, attack now while they are confused," Kate ordered. "Hit them with everything we have left." The 7 damaged human ships running on emergency power and improvised weapons suddenly found themselves winning a battle they should have lost. Sometimes the best weapon was not strength or technology, but the ability to create chaos when your enemy expected order. The chaos in the alien fleet was growing worse by the minute, but Admiral Kate Morrison knew they only had a small window of opportunity before the Vorthax ships adapted to their tactics. Her 7 damaged ships were down to 3 that could still fight. The destroyer Ranger was drifting without power. The frigate Storm had lost all its weapons, and the carrier Liberty was just debris floating in space after Captain Torres had rammed it into an alien battleship. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez crawled through the smoking corridors of his ship, dragging power cables behind him. His idea was so crazy that it might actually work. He wanted to connect all the remaining human ships together using mining cables from the colony's industrial platform. If they could link their power cores, they might be able to create something the aliens had never seen before. "Admiral," Rodriguez called over the radio while sparks flew around him, "I need permission to try something very dangerous. We can connect our ships with power cables and share energy between all our reactors. It will make us sitting ducks, but we might be able to create an electromagnetic storm big enough to shut down their entire fleet." Kate looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were starting to regroup after the confusion caused by the electromagnetic pulse and radio interference. Soon they would figure out how to work around the human tactics, and then the battle would be over. "How long do you need?" she asked. 10 minutes to set up the cables, maybe 5 more to charge the system," Rodriguez replied. "But Admiral, if this goes wrong, all our ships will be destroyed at the same time." Kate thought about the 12 million people on New Haven Colony. She thought about the children being loaded onto evacuation ships that would never be fast enough to escape. She thought about her crew who had followed her into an impossible battle because it was the right thing to do. "Do it," she said. "All remaining ships prepare to link power systems. This is our last chance." Captain Alex Grant was barely conscious on the bridge of his dying ship. The Ranger had lost life support, and his crew was working in vacuum suits. But when he heard the plan, he managed to smile. "Rodriguez, you magnificent crazy person, send us those cables." Navigator Ben Clark was now the acting captain of the cruiser Horizon after Commander Bell had been killed in the last alien attack. His ship was missing half its hull, but the reactor was still working. "Horizon is ready to link up," he reported. "Our reactor is damaged, but it should hold together long enough for whatever you are planning." The mining cables were thick industrial lines designed to move asteroids, not connect spaceships. But Chief Rodriguez and his engineering teams worked like their lives depended on it, because they did. They used emergency airlocks and magnetic clamps to attach the cables between ships. The 3 remaining human vessels formed a triangle in space, connected by power lines that sparked with electrical energy. Meanwhile, the alien fleet was recovering from the electromagnetic interference. The Vorthak ships that had lost their sensors were being guided by other vessels. The hive mind was slowly re-establishing connections between ships. Soon they would be back to full coordination, and the confused firing would stop. Chief Navigator Clark was now doing double duty as both captain and pilot of the Horizon. He calculated a series of micro-jumps that would position the linked human ships throughout the alien formation. It was the most dangerous flying he had ever attempted. If he made even a small mistake, the connected ships would crash into each other or get tangled in their own cables. "Are you sure about this?" Kate asked over the radio. "Once we make those jumps, we will be surrounded by alien ships with no way to escape." Clark looked at his damaged instruments and made calculations in his head. "Admiral, I have been flying for 15 years and I have never tried anything this stupid. But if we are going to die anyway, we might as well die doing something amazing." The linked ships charged their jump drives and disappeared in flashes of blue light. When they reappeared, they were scattered throughout the alien formation like pieces of a broken triangle. The Ranger materialized next to a Vorthak cruiser. The Horizon appeared in the middle of a group of alien destroyers. Kate's flagship, the Defiant, was surrounded by 6 enemy battleships. The aliens were surprised by this impossible maneuver. Ships simply did not jump into the middle of enemy formations while connected by cables. It was a violation of every rule of space combat. But that was exactly why it worked. "All ships overload reactors on my command," Kate ordered. "Rodriguez, are you ready?" The chief engineer was lying on the floor of his engine room, his hands on the reactor controls. Blood was running down his face from a head injury, but he was still conscious. "Ready, Admiral. This is going to be the biggest fireworks show in human history." "Execute," Kate said. All 3 human ships simultaneously overloaded their linked reactors. Instead of exploding, the connected power cores created a cascade of energy that spread through the cables and into space around them. The electromagnetic storm that resulted was like a lightning bolt the size of a solar system. Every electronic system in the area was immediately overwhelmed. The alien bioships, which depended on their organic neural networks, were hit the hardest. Their living computers could not handle the chaotic energy patterns. Ships that had been perfectly coordinated suddenly lost all communication with each other. Weapons specialist Lauren Price was working from a manual targeting system after all her electronics failed. She could barely see through the electromagnetic storm, but she managed to load one last torpedo into her launcher. This torpedo was special. It was filled with industrial acid from the mining platform, the kind used to dissolve asteroids for processing. Price aimed at the largest alien ship she could see and fired. The torpedo flew through the electromagnetic storm and hit the Vorthak command vessel directly in its central nervous cluster. The acid ate through the ship's biohull and reached the main brain that coordinated the entire alien fleet. The alien command ship began to convulse like a dying animal. Its bio-neural networks went crazy, sending random signals to every ship in the fleet. Instead of coordination, the aliens suddenly had chaos. The hive mind that made them so dangerous became the thing that destroyed them. Ships that had been working together for thousands of years suddenly could not tell friend from enemy. The electromagnetic storm combined with the acid damage to their command ship created a perfect disaster for the alien fleet. They began firing at each other, thinking that nearby ships were enemies. Kate watched through her cracked window as the alien fleet tore itself apart. 400 ships became 400 confused animals attacking anything that moved. It was the most beautiful and terrible thing she had ever seen. The electromagnetic storm slowly faded away, leaving behind a scene that nobody could have imagined. Admiral Kate Morrison stood on her damaged bridge and watched through her cracked window as 400 alien ships destroyed each other in a frenzy of confused violence. The Vorthak fleet that had seemed unstoppable just hours ago was now tearing itself apart. Without their hive mind to guide them, each alien ship's biocomputer thought every other ship was an enemy. Purple energy beams cut through space as the aliens fired at their own allies. Massive explosions lit up the darkness as ship after ship was destroyed by friendly fire. It was like watching a pack of wild animals attack each other instead of their prey. Chief Engineer Rodriguez pulled himself up from the floor of his engine room and looked at the readings on his damaged instruments. The power cables connecting the 3 human ships were melted and useless now, but they had done their job. The electromagnetic storm had been bigger and stronger than anything he had ever imagined possible. "Admiral," he called over the radio, his voice weak but happy. "The reactor overload worked better than we hoped. I am reading massive system failures across the entire alien fleet. Their biocomputers are completely confused. Captain Alex Grant was floating in the zero gravity of his ship's bridge, since the Ranger had lost artificial gravity along with everything else. But he was smiling as he watched the alien ships destroy each other. "I have never seen anything so beautiful in my life," he said. "They came here to kill us, and now they are doing our job for us." Navigator Ben Clark was trying to get some power back to the Horizon's engines when he noticed something amazing on his sensors. The few alien ships that were not firing at each other were trying to run away. The mighty Vorthak Dominion, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was retreating from 7 broken human ships. "Admiral Morrison," Clark called out, "some of the alien ships are trying to escape the system. Should we try to stop them?" Kate looked at her tactical display. Her 3 ships were barely floating hulks. They had no weapons left, no shields, and barely enough power to keep the life support working. Even if they wanted to chase the fleeing aliens, they could not move fast enough to catch them. "Let them go," she said. "They can tell their friends what happens when you mess with humans." For the next 6 hours, the 3 human ships drifted through the debris field and watched the alien fleet finish destroying itself. By the time the shooting stopped, there were only pieces of bioships floating in space. 412 alien vessels had been reduced to scrap metal and dead tissue. Technical specialist Karen Lee was one of the few survivors from the destroyed cruiser Horizon before Navigator Clark had taken command. She had been working in the ship's computer core when the electromagnetic storm hit, and the experience had been like being inside a lightning bolt. Now she was helping to restore basic systems to the surviving ships. "This is impossible," she said as she looked at the wreckage around them. 7 damaged ships should not have been able to defeat an entire alien armada. The math does not work. But Kate knew why it had worked. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had tried to fight humans using logic and coordination. They expected their enemies to be reasonable and predictable. They never imagined that desperate humans would connect their ships with mining cables and turn their reactors into weapons. "The Vorthak were stronger than us," Kate said to her crew. "They were faster than us, and their technology was better than ours. But they made the mistake of thinking we would fight like them. They forgot that humans do not give up, even when giving up is the smart thing to do." 3 days later, the first ships from Earth's main fleet arrived at New Haven. Admiral Robert Chen, who commanded the relief force, brought 40 of the newest and most powerful warships humanity had ever built. He expected to find the system under alien control and the colony destroyed. Instead, he found 3 barely floating human ships surrounded by the wreckage of the largest alien fleet in recorded history. When he asked for a status report, Kate's response was simple. "Mission accomplished, Admiral. New Haven colony is secure." Admiral Chen's fleet spent 2 weeks studying the battlefield and trying to understand what had happened. The official report that went back to Earth Command was 300 pages long, full of technical analysis and tactical diagrams. But it still could not really explain how such an impossible victory had been achieved. The veterans of the battle knew the truth, though. When the historians came to interview them months later, they all told the same story. Weapons specialist Lauren Price, who had fired the acid torpedo that destroyed the alien command ship, put it best when she said, "The aliens were smarter and stronger than us. But they tried to fight humans like we were reasonable people. That was their first and last mistake." The Battle of New Haven became the most famous space battle in human history. Military academies across human space studied it, not as an example of superior tactics or better technology, but as proof that the human spirit could overcome any odds. The phrase "human crazy" became known throughout the galaxy as other alien species heard the story and began to understand that humans were not like other races. Chief Engineer Rodriguez, who survived his injuries and went on to design new types of weapons based on the mining cable tactic, always insisted that the victory was not about being crazy. "We were not crazy," he would tell his students. "We were desperate. And desperate humans are the most dangerous thing in the universe, Admiral." Kate Morrison was promoted and given command of the entire colonial defense fleet, but she never forgot the lesson she learned at New Haven. When young officers asked her for advice about fighting superior enemies, she would smile and say, "Remember that your enemy expects you to be logical, so be illogical. Do something so unexpected that they cannot plan for it, and never ever give up no matter how bad things look." Years later, when alien diplomats met with human representatives for the first time, they always asked the same question. "How did 7 of your damaged ships destroy 400 of our best vessels?" The human answer was always the same. "We did not know it was impossible, so we did it anyway." The Battle of New Haven proved that humanity's greatest weapon was not superior technology or overwhelming numbers. It was the refusal to accept defeat when any reasonable being would surrender. The Vorthak had learned this lesson too late, and the galaxy would never forget what happened when someone tried to destroy humanity's hope.